Welcome to the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about Suede, known as the London Suede here in the States, and their record Antidepressants. They released that on September 5th. This is the 10th studio album for the British rockers. Congrats on that milestone. And their follow-up to 2022's Autofiction. The band also released Sci-Fi Lullabies Volume 2 back on May 23rd. 19 additional songs in an expanded 3-disc set of sci-fi lullabies, which might be one of the best collections of B-sides ever released. And I regret not covering it to a degree, but unfortunately my time is pretty limited these days due to my work schedule. And I just felt that despite really being worth your time, these new tracks just didn't elevate the whole project to a higher level than it's already at. I will take a moment now, though, to encourage every one of you to listen to those if you haven't already. And frankly, if you're not familiar with this band at all, well, I think it's maybe time to go down that rabbit hole. Suede is arguably one of the best bands to exist in the last 30 years, earning all the love they deserve on their side of the pond, but stateside, they might be one of the most overlooked and underappreciated bands that's still out there doing their thing. Their output has been insanely consistent throughout their career in both the quality of their music and the volume of the output. And for me, it's tough not to think about their breakup back in 2003 and argue that it wasn't the catalyst for this triumphant revival that we're all witnessing when the band reformed back in 2010 in what was billed as a one-off show. I might also argue that many bands at this stage in their career might be happy to rest on their laurels, making records that attempt to channel the classic sounds that put them on the map or simply just tour with their hits. But that mentality just won't do it for Suede. One of my favorite quotes regarding this band comes from a big influence of theirs, David Bowie, back in 1996, when he told Select that Suede is, quote, still one of the great British bands of the 90s. They have the enviable knack of taking a rather pathetic fumble of a quick fuck under the pier and extracting those few golden moments that many years later convince oneself that for one brief flickering moment, one was as inspired as Romeo or, in some cases, Juliet. The poor things are bound to be an institution by the year 2000, and boy was he right about that. Antidepressants is a nostalgia be damned kind of record, proof that this band finds no feeling of contentment in looking back, and it does so with such ferociousness that even Dylan Thomas is somewhere in the ether giving the band a standing ovation. The battle against time is never won, but the choice to acquiesce is the first step that every one of us takes into our grave. And this record showcases a band that continues to forge a new path ahead, refusing to succumb to the throes of their own mortality. This general guiding principle is what sets the stage for the band to delve further into the pangs and illusions of the modern era that we live in on this record. It's in the title, Antidepressants, and the title track that emphasizes, at the end of the day, the choice really is yours. Brett Anderson's singular howl sounds more potent than ever when he sings, "It's your choice though, fill in the forms, juggle the numbers. I look in my house, it's a luxury design, but there's shit on the walls that I'm hiding behind." I love those lines so much. "There's a room in the back in case you get scared, prisoner. I'm on antidepressants. I just lie awake." The lines delivered with poignant irony and an aura of jovial melody. The song is a call to action, and it's not just the pills that are stripping us of our raw human experience. It's social media and the deceptive facade that people create to deflect their problems, or the opposite, where others run to it as a means of projecting their anger onto others instead of learning to develop healthy coping mechanisms. It's the way we allow computers to work for us instead of working to better ourselves. It's anything that deprives you of the reality of this precious moment. And if we continue to dull the sadness in our lives, then any inkling of joy fails to bring euphoria. This is balanced magnificently, though, with sentimental optimism that pierces the dark veil, particularly the track Sweet Kid, when he sings, "But I will be there if you think of me. They're like a beat at the back of your skull. All the ways that you'll change then, with every skin that you shed. I'll have faith that you're staying in love, my sweet kid. Oh, my sweet kid, well, this life belongs to you." The magnitude of this track rests in the fact that it feels like Brett is singing directly to the listener. Like he's the beat at the back of your skull. And I'd say that the best influences in any person's life are the ones that can deliver hard truth while also reassuring you that they've got your back through it all. And Suede is a band that stand alone in their ability to have that influence through every song on this record. Elsewhere, Brett continues to implement the recitative approach that made its way into autofiction, leaning heavily into the style on tracks like Somewhere Between an Atom and a Star and June Rain, where he does a marvelous job of working between this element and the classic style of his legendary voice. It's a technique that's currently very popular, but I can't help but feel like he takes his inspiration from Talking Heads' David Byrne, who actually also has a record out this week, and we'll be discussing that later on. I'm really excited to talk about that album. But Brett Anderson has always been impressive. His performance here, though, both lyrically and sonically on this record, is just absolutely the stuff of ages. And what I love about the overall musical style of this album is that they're very obviously shifting their music into new terrain, but while also harboring so many of the elements that made them such a force at the beginning of their career. I'll argue that the overall style of this record is gothic post-punk, channeling the likes of Joy Division, Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, and Pill. But all the rudiments of classic rock, blues, glam rock, and even pop are there on display. Their work has always reminded me of a combination of David Bowie, Echo and the Bunnymen, and The Cult. And Antidepressants is a record that brings all of these influences seamlessly together with a big dose of Depeche Mode's Memento Mori, pun intended there. The album features career-defining work from guitarist Richard Oakes, who just pummels the listener like a raging tide with wave after wave of sharp, electrifying riffs kindled with deliberate poise. Matt Osman is just as impeccable on the bass as well, knowing precisely when to take the lead on the track with his instrument, but also knowing when to work in complementary fashion with Richard's guitar. Simon Gilbert is marvelous on the skins on this record, with an acute awareness of when to go big and when to lay low. And the synth work from Neil Codling is brilliant in its ability to bring these tracks to life with demure charm. I just love the almost just quiet textures that course throughout this record. The album was produced by Ed Butler, who worked with the band on their first 3 records and has produced every record since their reunion except for 2018's The Blue Hour, which was produced by Alan Moulder. It's pretty cool. I won't fault them for wanting to work with Alan or any other individuals in the past. I've said many times on the channel that I believe it's a good thing to mix things up from a production standpoint, but after 30 plus years and seeing the results in his absence, I think it's safe to say that with Antidepressants, Ed is their guy, and I hope that they continue to stick with him. This record opens with Disintegrate. You got this soft pounding of an electric bass drum that slowly increases in volume as an automated voice says, connected, disconnected, goes back and forth. The anticipation in the build makes it instantly irresistible. There's just a second of discord before driving percussion and an intoxicating riff with incredible tone take hold of this track. Brett enters with vocals that feature quiet, almost lo-fi production with a delivery that borders on recitative. It's really interesting the way that he executes that style. There's a burst of backing vocals as the guitars find lighter notes, and then the song bursts with intensity as Brett's vocals breach their hushed inception. The music dissolves just before the minute and 30-second mark with bright textures and vocals that completely take over. The drums kickstart things into brilliant post-punk, gothic new wave form, and the intensity of the track builds through the vocals and swelling textures of the second verse, moving right into a double round of the chorus to finish off your opening track. Your second track, is entitled Dancing with the Europeans. You got a steely, bright, reverb-laden riff that leads this one off, with a crash of drums beckoning the rest of the instrumentation, included muted spoken word vocals that are pretty brief. Brett's vocals find their shape as the lead riff breaks momentarily, but then quickly resumes its responsibilities. Matt Osman's bass riff and the tone of his instrument on this song absolutely wreck me, vying for supremacy against that lead guitar riff. The guitar ultimately wins in the chorus, though, with big soaring vocals from Brett providing a highlight as well. The lead guitar adopts a screeching quality in the next verse, leading us once again into the chorus and finishing with a coda that features a refrain of the hook, Dancing with the Europeans, and really solid guitar work from Richard there. Your third song, Antidepressants, your title track is, your title track comes out with big rhythm guitar that carries a deep tone. It's perfect to balance the glacial reverb sear of the lead riff that plays off the bass lick in unique fashion, reminiscent of the way that Bernard Sumner and Peter Hook would play off each other. Brett opens with a recitative style and a deep tone, slowly building his tone and exploding into a chorus that features bright melodies, as well as a modest but stunning lead riff from Richard. The song shifts into a breakdown at the minute and 45-second mark, with the drums cooling for just a brief moment before bursting back into the song. There's a final go of the chorus before the song enters into another breakdown, building back in a calculated and ferocious manner to finish this one out. Your fourth track is entitled Sweet Kid. Definitely a highlight for me. I'm a big fan of this song. Got a twinkly arpeggiated riff that takes this one out of the gate, creating a somber mood with mid-tempo rhythm. The lead guitar makes a great shift with the start of the verse, functioning in the role of rhythm, but shining like a lead. It's a really well done dynamic here with that guitar riff. And that opening riff returns to mark the start of the pre-chorus, leading into a chorus with the hook that plays off the title over layered guitars that give the song a fuller sound. And then it repeats this cycle once more before entering at a breakdown at about the minute and 45-second mark, surging back with a final round of pre-chorus and chorus to finish. Your fifth track is entitled The Sound and the Summer. There's a brief fade in before a drum roll ushers in driving rhythm and a searing guitar riff. The verse takes a shift into rolling tom play on the drums with undulating bass and subdued icy guitar. Brett's vocals are sharp to match on a track that really embodies that classic goth style. This is another highlight on the record for me. And then the chorus bursts forth from the tranquility with the lead riff returning to just absolutely captivate. The track moves through the verse and chorus once more, with the solo taking hold around the 2-minute and 20-second mark. From there, it lurches into a bass-driven breakdown with a light twinkle of the guitar gently nestled against it. The chorus is revived once more to close this one out, and it leads us into our sixth track, Somewhere Between an Atom and a Star. This track takes us into a moment of balladry with fluttering synth open that seeds its power to a soothing, arpeggiated guitar riff. And then you get a searing texture that works in the backdrop of a formless landscape as the song progresses, with pounding drums and chugging guitars that charge in at the 45-second mark. It almost has like a heavy metal quality before mushrooming into an ethereal atmosphere of soaring vocals, dancing bass, and shimmering guitar work. You get a twinkly riff that guides the listener back into a serene, shapeless body to take you into the coda and close this track out. The seventh track is entitled Broken Music for Broken People. Just comes right at the perfect moment, bringing the energy back with all of the instrumentation charging right out of the gate. The verse settles the song into mellower territory with a prominent lead riff that gleams with playful energy. The track is going to take a harder edge in the pre-chorus before finding balance between the two preceding segments in the chorus. I really like the way that this is executed on this track. The song moves through a second cycle of this structure, finishing with a coda that features a big refrain of the hook, "Oh, oh, 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 save the world," and rolls right into your eighth song, which is entitled Criminal Waves. This thing opens with a steely riff and commanding galloping percussion. Drums are definitely a highlight on this track. Then a sharp bass riff comes out of nowhere before descending the track into a realm of deep tone, really groovy rhythm. It's jaunty with an element of funk to it, and these elements work splendidly against the grinding lead guitar that Richard drops. A little trickle of the bass shifts the listener into the song's hook, with the guitar exploring lighter territory while it continues to grind in sinewy fashion. There's a heavy, almost chaotic bridge that takes hold for a brief moment before taking us back into a final hook that it feels like it's just going to lose control and then it vanishes. I love the finish on this song. Your ninth track is entitled Trance State. Big mid-tempo percussion leads this one off, joined shortly after by fluttering synths and an excellent bass lick. The guitar finally joins the party just before Brett steals the spotlight on this one. The dynamic is great though, with all the instruments standing out on their own, with the production of the track while also still finding a way to coalesce. There's a brief breakdown before the chorus brings everything together, and then the song works through the verse-chorus cycle once more before riding a guitar solo right at about the 2-minute and 30-second mark. From here, the band takes us into a vocal-driven breakdown before the song erupts into a massive and hypnotic segment. It feels like they might close it like this with big energy, but they catch us off guard with a coda that breaks things down and finishes with the absence of everything except a fluttering synth and a spoken word element. Takes us to your 10th and penultimate track entitled June Rain. Starts with this ominous fluttering synths that pave the way for a soothing, icy, arpeggiated riff to work in. Playful bass guitar makes a brief appearance before recitative vocals take the lead on a minimal open. The bass finds its way back into the mix with subtle synth textures adding brilliant depth to the song. The momentum picks up in the bass lick before the track surges into full form just before the 2-minute mark. And it's another track that borders on balladry a bit, but it continues to build in heavy form before reverting to its tranquil shapelessness to finish, and leading right into your final track, your 11th song, which is entitled Life is Endless, Life is a Moment. It's a fantastic title for the final track. Various sound effects open this one up. The most prominent sounding, kind of like a passing train. The lead riff soon takes the spotlight over that noise with gentle crashes, creating a build-up to a phenomenal percussion drop. And oh my God, the drums on this track are absolutely perfect. This is a track that really adopts that sparse Joy Division style with a playful stop and go in it as well. I'm hearing a lot of The Cure on this one as well too. The momentum slowly builds right up to the 3-minute mark before a brief breakdown. And then the track surges back, focusing on the line, life is endless, life is a moment. And it just brilliantly captures what is at the heart of this record as the track builds to a massive crescendo and then evaporates to finish. This record is marvelous. When I was talking about autofiction a few years back, I had mentioned that I never really had a chance to get into this band. They're the ones that really started the whole British movement there, like 1993. And for some reason, in the States anyway, we're just overlooked. Instead, we got bands like Oasis, we got Blur, we got Radiohead, we got a number of bands. And I just felt like Suede never got the coverage. They never got the radio time. I mean, you got to think that back in the day, you relied on radio for exposure. You relied on friends for exposure. And I didn't have any bands or any friends that were listening to Suede at the time. And so it's been recently in the last few years that I got into this band, and they might be one of my favorites. I absolutely love them. They really kind of remind me of one of my favorites, Interpol, in a lot of ways. And it's just great to see them thrive this late in their career. I'm not necessarily going to say that this is their best record ever, because that would be quite a statement, but this album is a career highlight. This certainly is one of their best collections of songs to date. And I'm just thrilled with the momentum that they've been able to carry since reuniting with Ed Butler. And, you know, their first three records kind of form this epic trifecta. And I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, or any of us for that matter, but I feel like the next installment really could create a trifecta that exists on that level, that exists on that quality. And I just really am enjoying the hell out of this post-punk shift that the band has taken, while still developing tracks that are pop driven. I would say that structurally the songs maybe not quite as adventurous as they could be. That might be like my one criticism of this record, but it in no way impacts the ability for the listener to just enjoy this thing from start to finish. The movement is incredible. I love the run of tracks. I'm going to give this thing a 9.5 out of 10. This is probably my favorite record of the year so far. And I hope I'm not hyping it up too much. I really hope that you enjoy the hell out of this record. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling generous, please drop a super gift. Any and all contributions help with me blowing this project up in 2025. I really appreciate any of those of you who are generous enough to do so. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.